Good morning, students.
Good morning,
Good
teacher.
morning. Morning.
Okay, so everyone, how are you today?
I am okay.
Okay, and good. So, are you ready?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So, let me share my screen. So, everyone, please behave. Okay. So, again, welcome back to our online class. Our subject is science, and our topic is all about the genetic inheritance in living things. Okay. So, we are going to talk about the genetic inheritance, all the traits that we inherit from our parents. Okay. So, let's see and let us discuss about this matter today. All right. So let's start first with the vocabularies. Please follow teacher. Let us read all together. Number 1, offspring.
Offspring.
Again, offspring. Okay, very good. Number 2, parents.
Parent.
Parents.
Parents.
Parent.
And number 3, young.
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 Number 4, traits.
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 Okay, very good. Number 5, past.
Past.
Past. Number 6, genes.
Gene.
Okay, again, genes with letter S.
Genes.
Gene.
Very good. Number 7, chromosome.
Chromosome.
Okay, chromosome. Number 8, gametes.
Gamete.
With letter S, gametes.
Gametes.
Very good. Number 9, generation.
Generation.
Again,
Generation.
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 Okay, very good. Number 10, allele.
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 Okay, very good. So those are the vocabularies of our topic for today. So let's move on to our discussion. So everyone, please mute yourself and behave. Okay, and of course, you listen to teacher, okay? Okay, so the genetic inheritance in living things. So once they fully grow, living things will make babies. If the living things are fully grown, okay, they will make babies, right? Okay, their offspring or children will look the same as them. Okay, so their children, okay, or their young or babies will look the same as their parents. They will look the same as them. So when we observe humans, okay, so that's us, animals and plants, we can see how their offspring look as their parents, right? So if we observe the humans, plants, and animals, they will look like their parents also, right? So the traits that are passed from parents to their offspring are called genetic traits. Okay, so again, the traits that are passed from their parents to their babies or to their offspring or children, that is called the genetic traits. Okay, again, that is called the genetic traits. All right. Okay, so we have here an activity in page 53. Please go to page 53. Where am I? Okay, so in here, this is a cat. Yeah, so this is a cat. What does it look like? Okay, so what does it look like? So this is the cat, right? So what does it look like? So its fur is color gray and it has yellow eyes. It is the same as picture number. The right answer is number 3, right? So they look the same. Why is that? So what is the reason why this picture same as in number 3? Because they have the same color of eyes and fur. Okay, everyone, finish?
Yes.
Finish.
Okay, if you're all finished, let's move on to page 57. Parents pass on their physical traits to their offspring. So who are the offspring? These are the children. Okay, these are their babies. Okay, and so these parents will pass their physical traits. Okay, when we say physical traits, these are the looks. Okay, or yeah, physical looks of their parents. Okay, they will pass it to their offspring. So when a baby is formed, some of the traits from mother and some from the father are joined to form the baby. Okay, the physical traits or some physical traits of the mother and some physical traits of the father, okay, will join together to form the baby. Okay, so these traits are called, again, this is called a genetic traits. Okay, example of genetic traits are type of earlobe, type of plant stem, and the hair color of an animal. Okay, so these are examples of genetic traits. So, living things can pass on their genetic traits to their offspring through the genes. Okay, genes are found in the chromosome inside the parent's sex cells. Okay, so these sex cells is also called as gametes. Okay, genes control the genetic traits of the offspring and then make them to look like those of the parents. Okay, the same kinds of living things have the same traits. Right? A chromosome contains many genes. Okay, so again, a chromosome contains many genes. Okay, so we have hundreds to thousands of genes in a chromosome. Okay, chromosomes are always in pairs. Okay, when we say pairs, these are two. Okay, so genes in the chromosomes are also in pairs. Okay, so since the chromosomes are in pairs, so that's why the genes in a chromosomes are also in pairs. All right. So each pair of gene controls one trait of a living thing. So each gene or each pair of genes in a chromosome will control one trait of a living thing. So we have here an example. For example, type of hair is controlled by gene C on one chromosome and gene C on another chromosome. Okay, so they are in pairs. Okay, so these two genes control if you will have straight or curly hair. So this gene C will be the one to control whether you have a straight hair or curly hair. Okay, so we have here the similar traits of people, similar traits of rabbits, and similar traits of roses. Right? Page 58. Please go to page 58. All right. So we have here an example of genes on chromosomes that control the genetic traits in human. This is the pair of genes. So we have 1 and 2. So gene that controls the type of the face will be gene A. Okay, this one and this one. So they come also in pairs. Next, gene that control the type of earlobe will be B. Okay, so they are also in pairs. And then the gene that control the type of hair is gene C. Okay. There. Right. So when cells split to form new gametes, okay, when we say gametes, this is the sex cell, right? So each pair of chromosomes in the parents, gametes will split into new cells. This makes the genes in the chromosomes to also split up. The gene from the father's gamete or the sperm mixes with the gene from the mother's gamete, that is the egg cell. The gene controls the same type of genetic trait will pair up again to form a new pair of genes. Okay, so that is the new cell or the offspring's cell. Okay. Will have both the father's and mother's genes. The gene from the father and the gene from the mother will join together, and then that will form the new cell, and that will be the offspring's cell. Okay, so each new pair of genes will control the different genetic trait which will show up in a child. Okay, so we have here an example, the gene that gives a child dimples. Okay, so if, for example, your mother or your father have a dimple, there will be a possibility that you will also have a dimple. Okay, we have here an example of pairing genes from the gametes of parents. Okay, so this is the father and this is the mother. Okay, so the father will produce a sperm, right? And then the mother will also produce egg cell, right? So this sperm will have a pair of chromosome, right? Okay, and also the egg cell. So that will come, that comes from the mother. Okay, and then they will pair up through fertilization. The sperm will fertilize the egg cell. So the genes pair up on a new chromosome. So that is why this chromosome will split, and this one will also split. Okay, and then they will form a new chromosome. This will be the chromosome of their offspring or their baby. Okay, so this one, this color blue represents the chromosome from the father. Okay, and this one will represent the chromosome from the mother. Okay, so we have here A, B, C, and D. This will decide which trait are you going to get, whether from your father or from your mother. So one gene controls one genetic trait. There are two types of genes that control the genetic traits of living things. They are, first one is a dominant gene and a recessive gene. Okay, so let's start first with a dominant gene. So it's a gene that can show its trait even when there is another gene there. The trait it shows is called the dominant trait. It is written in capital letters. Okay, example T, T, and like this. All right. And then we also have a recessive gene. So a gene that can only show its trait when it is paired up with the same kind of gene. The trait it shows is called the recessive trait. It is written in small letters. So example of this is like this. All right. So the difference here is that a dominant gene shows, okay, it shows its trait even when there is another gene there. It shows its trait still, even there is another gene. Okay, but here in recessive gene, it will only show its trait when it is paired up with the same kind of gene. So it will only show its trait if it will be paired up into the same kind of gene. Okay, so the pairing of genes that control the genetic traits of a living thing is called a genotype. Okay, again, the pairing of genes that control the genetic traits of a living thing is called a genotype. So genotypes are written as pair of English letters such as A, B, B, and D, D. When we describe how a living thing looks, we describe it as phenotype. Okay, so if we are going to discuss how a living thing looks like, we call that as a phenotype. So phenotype is a physical looks of living things. Right, so again, the phenotype is a physical looks of a living thing and how they do things. Okay, so example, the height of a pea stem, the color of our skin. Okay, the genetic inheritance of living things can be grouped into 3 types. All right, so first one is the dominant trait is the trait that shows in every generation of the living thing. Okay, so again, when we say dominant trait, these are the traits that will show in every generation of that living thing. Okay, and in here, in number 2, the recessive trait is a trait that is only seen in some generation. Okay, so again, the recessive trait is a trait that only seen in some generation. Let's say, for example, your parents have fair skin and then you have a dark skin. Okay, that is called the recessive trait. So it only shows in some generation. Okay. Next, in number 3, the variant trait is a trait that is different from the other members of the family and can be passed on to the next generation. Okay, let's say, for example, you have siblings. Okay, so your sibling has, or your brother has a dimple, but you don't have. So that is what we call a variant trait. Okay, and this variant trait can also be passed on the next generation. Okay, let's say, for example, you will have your own baby. There is a possibility that the dimple will be passed on to that or to your children. Okay, let's go to page 60. So we have here the genetic traits of humans. Okay, so when we observe the people around us, we see some similar and some different traits. So each person is special because these different genetic traits are passed on from our ancestor to each of us. Okay, so we have here examples of genetic traits of humans. Okay, we have number 1, hairline. Okay, so can you check your hairline, everyone? Do you have this widow's peak or straight? Okay, so for me, I have widow's peak. Okay, so I got this widow's peak from my father. This one, it looks like this. Next, okay, how about the type of hair? So number 2, type of hair. So do you have a straight or curly hair? Okay, so for me, I have a straight hair. right? So both my father and my mother have a straight hair. That is why I got straight hair. All right. Next is we have earlobe. Okay, so how is your earlobe? Is it detached or attached? Okay, so the detached earlobe looks like this. Okay, and then the attached earlobe looks like this. All right, so for me, I have this attached earlobe. Next is number 4. It's skin color. Okay, so we have fair and dark. So for me, I am brown. So I am not too dark and I am not too fair. Next, number 5 is the eye color. So we have color blue and color brown. Next, number 6 is eyelid. So we have single and double eyelid. Hair whorl. Okay, so how many whorl do you have? Is it single or double? So for me, I have single only. Okay, how about you, upper? How many hair whorl do you have? Upper? Single? Okay, so you only have one whorl. Right. Next, how about number 8? We have dimple. So we have dimples and no dimple. Okay. So Okat, do you have a dimple or none? August?
None.
None. Okay, so no
Alright.
dimples. Okay, so who among you in grade 5 who has a dimples? Anyone? Oh, I think Gao has a dimples. Gao, do you have a dimples?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so Gao has a dimples. Next, how about number 9? So we have tongue. Okay, so we have people who are able to roll their tongue. So they can roll their tongue like this. But some people they are unable to roll their tongue. They cannot do that. Okay, so these two are different. Okay, so how about you? Can you roll your tongue? Yes or no? Achita Paul Painios. Can you roll your tongue? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So you can able to roll your tongue, okay? But other people cannot. Okay, let's go to page 61. Okay, the genetic traits of father came from paternal grandparents. Okay, so the genetic traits from your father will be coming from your paternal grandparents. Okay, the genetic traits of a mother came from maternal grandparents. These traits were when passed on to children. This is why children also look like their parents and ancestors, right? Okay, so that is why some people will look like their grandparents. Some people will look like their aunties and uncles, right? Because the genetic traits will be passed on, okay? We will be sharing those traits. Okay, so people of the same family have some similar traits. So we have similar traits, but they also have their own special traits that make them different from other people. So these different traits are called genetic variation. Okay, so even though you are siblings, you still have these traits wherein you are not the same. Okay, so that is called genetic variation. Okay, let's say for example, you have a pointy nose and then your sister Gao, do you have the same eyes like your mother or your father?
Mother.
Oh, mother. Okay, so you have the same eyes as your mother.